Our last panelist is Michael Whipple. Michael is Executive Director, Post-Production Technologies at Sony Pictures Entertainment, where he specializes in digital imaging systems and workflow design for motion pictures and TV, as well as finishing for HDR display. Prior to SPE, Mike was a workflow specialist at the former Sony ColorWorks, one of the first, if not the first, post facilities with an ACES pipeline. Mike began his career as an engineer at Outpost Digital, PostLogic Studios, and Technicolor. So please help me welcome Michael to the stage. Thank you.
Today we're here to talk about the Academy encoding system and its use in visual effects. I'm going to go into some detail about how Sony Pictures came to start using ACES and what we learned from it. My first 4 years at Sony Pictures were spent working as a motion picture workflow specialist and eventually the director of technologies for their post-production company, ColorWorks. Working in a post house owned by a studio, owned by an electronics company, put us in an interesting position and led to some pretty interesting projects. At ColorWorks, our team of engineers, color imaging scientists, and software engineers were tasked with implementing ACES in 2011. In 2011, the F-65 was a very early prototype and had no pre-existing workflow, so it seemed like a perfect candidate for ACES. ACES offered the studio and the production a non-destructive, high dynamic range color management system for the camera and an extremely robust archive for the studio. Archives seem to be a topic that we've all touched upon with ACES. So with plans for Columbia Pictures and Screen Gems to shoot on the F-65 that spring, we started testing. By that winter, working very closely with Sony Electronics and Filmlight, we teamed up with the Creative Cartel to create a dailies and visual effects pipeline. We soon started production on After Earth, which was quickly followed by No Good Deed. Both productions acquired on the F-65 and used ACES color management. What were the results? We were very impressed with the results from using ACES. Why did we choose to use ACES early on? Even though there were still some moving parts, we felt the underlying fundamentals of the ACES color management framework would give us a lot of bang for the buck. ACES carries artists' creative intent from onset through dailies, visual effects, and finally into finishing. ACES is non-destructive, so the images captured on set and created in visual effects maintain their integrity throughout the entire process. ACES IDTs, or input device transforms, bring footage from different camera systems into common space and can reduce the time needed to make different types of cameras match, speeding up the start of visual effects and creative work. Display-specific output device transforms can also help reduce the time needed to create different deliverables, such as cinema versions, HDR, and SDR versions. As a result, we found that ACES can reduce the cost of color correction and visual effects while still maintaining high quality. For decades, the studios have relied on archives of their original cut negative for remastering for new display technologies. Even though film is going away and digital is taken over, studios are still very interested in maintaining a high-quality archive. ACES is starting to fill that gap. In ACES, the archive is in scene-referred space, giving it a tremendous amount of value when it's remastered for new display technologies. As a result, we're finding the quality of remastered ACES projects are higher than projects which were rendered and archived in a display-referred space, such as 709 or P3. When we started down this road, there were some challenges. The framework existed, but it still had some moving parts. The RRT was still in development. There was really no standardized log encoding for onset or color grading. And sometimes different transforms on different systems gave you different results. As a result, we had to make a whole lot of LUTs. As the post house, you often end up in the middle as the people creating the color pipeline for all steps in the process. Onset, dailies, visual effects, and final color correction. Because ACES wasn't the standard across all platforms at the time, we had to force the platforms to work with ACES. As a result, making ACES work in 2012 ended up in a whole lot of LUTs and a lot of education. During pre-production, we started, of our first 2 ACES pictures, we settled on an RRT and a log encoding that we felt could work across all systems. We handed out questionnaires to the Dailies facilities VFX vendors and asked what software and hardware they were working with and what displays they planned on using on the production. Using this as our guide, we put together lookup table packages and step-by-step workflow documentation specifically outlining how to properly view the material while working in ACES. This resulted in a lot of time and labor on our part. Then ACES 1.0 happened. In the meantime, while we were doing all this work, the Academy was continuing to develop ACES. ACES 1.0 was delivered this year, and it has been standardized in SMPTE and is out in the wild. As a result, a lot of the work that we had to do is no longer necessary. A lot of the color science wizardry involved in producing ACES content is built into the software. ACES 1.0 includes ACES Proxy and ACES CC, which are standardized log encodings, which allow onset and final color correction to create looks that you can then use in visual effects. ACES Proxy has been integrated into camera systems and raw SDKs from every major camera manufacturer, and onset tool, color tool. ACES CC has been included in every major color correction system. This closed the loop and reduced the ambiguity between how images are handled on each system and allowed us to more easily move images between facilities. OpenColor.io and CTL, also known as the Color Transform Language, are open source tools which are freely available for you to integrate into your own custom pipelines. Look modification transforms can be used and will hopefully eliminate the argument that ACES has a look. We continued to send out questionnaires and supply lookup packages because not every facility and software package is integrated ACES. However, by the time ColorWorks went away, more and more productions and VFX companies were aware of and already working in ACES, as you can see from the group here. Was it worth the investment? It absolutely was. Our productions are continuing to create ACES content, and we're pushing more and more vendors to implement ACES in their systems. Since we started down this road, we've produced approximately 10 live action features and with a mix of cameras. And we're currently dipping into our archive using ACES Masters for creating high quality HDR content for both feature films and television shows. And that's it. Thank you.